Have you ever considered working in partnership with Impact Wales? Perhaps you've attended some of our workshops or online training sessions and afterwards thought you might like to get some further support for your school, but you're not quite sure how to go about it.
Over the last 4 years on the podcast, we've spoken to several teachers whose schools we've worked with to discuss their journey and the support we've given them. Some of them have attended our training sessions first, while others come to us directly looking for support. But in this episode, we'll feature clips from 3 previous episodes of the podcast with special guests, talking about what it's like to work with us here at Impact Wales and how the support we've provided has had an impact in their schools.
Back in episode 123, we were joined by 2 members of staff from St Richard Gwyn Catholic High School in Flint, Matt Davis, who's Assistant Head Teacher for Teaching, Learning and Curriculum, and Louise Walsh, Assistant Head Teacher for Standards and Outcomes. We discussed how Impact supported the school to track progress in Curriculum for Wales.
What we really liked when we went to the Impact Wales training was it crystallised some of the ideas that we'd already had around breaking down the what matters statements. Mm-hmm. But then the process that you spoke about starting with pupils' needs, moving then to the what matters statements, then the descriptors of learning, then the active objectives. It just really helped. We had ideas kind of swirling around our minds, but to see that kind of process, that format of this should be the thinking process, and it was just it was something that we could go back to school and easily communicate, which made sense. And then the examples that you gave of how the what matters statements were broken down in it was a humanities example. It just really it made us think, right, we can work with this idea, and it's something that we can cascade and discuss with our ALE leaders, and we think it will help us go on to the next. We'd reviewed the curriculum, we'd had ideas about where we wanted to go, but it just gave us the impetus for that next step, I think, the training.
I think as well, we noticed that a lot of what we've been doing previously in school with our CPL, so for example, looking at schema building, the cognitive science of learning, and you included quite a lot of that in the workshop that we attended. So a lot of the things that we've been doing in school already, you reinforced that. So it just worked really well, didn't it?
Yeah. We were very keen on curriculum design, assessment design, and pedagogy not being these separate entities, and those 3 things kind of being together. And the message that came from your training really chimed with that and kind of articulated it in a way which I think we were probably looking for. So it just made perfect sense to investigate a little bit more, I think.
One of the questions I had is, what are we assessing against? How are we going to measure progression? So I really liked the use of the active learning objectives as a way of tying in our curriculum design and our assessment really closely together. So for me, that was something that I thought we can go somewhere with this. This could work in our school.
Through our work with St Richard Gwyn, we also worked with some of the primary schools in the local cluster. So a few episodes later, in episode 127, we were joined by Paul Phillips, head teacher at St Mary's Catholic Primary School in Flint, again to discuss how Impact supported the school to track progress in Curriculum for Wales.
Meeting with you guys and bringing us all together to have those conversations really useful, in that we were able to, obviously we discussed with one another previously where we were up to, but having somebody external come in and talk to us about the rationale for developing a curriculum that's coherent and progressive was really helpful as well. We all feed into the same high school. It's in all of our interests it's particularly in St Richard Gwyn's interest that we have a joined up thinking, and it's part of our transition work is that we all have similar sort of principles, and that the expectations of the children going up to year 7 in St Richard Gwyn is similar. So we have benefited from working together collaboratively, and we talk a lot, the heads talk a lot about it. Getting all of the staff together, though, we haven't done quite as much. So this has been a vehicle for us to be able to do that. Face-to-face sessions have been much longer than the virtual sessions that we've done, haven't they? And I think you can get into things a little bit more deeply, and we can spend more time thinking about things. It's really useful to hear the discussion. I think we've probably all learned through Zoom and Teams or whatever that although technically it's quite useful to have Teams sometimes, actually meetings are better face to face, aren't they? Because you can see people's reactions, and you can hear more people speaking at any one time. I think what I think is a really good model of doing 2 consecutive days. That's been really useful. So as you said, it was the first days of each of those 2 sessions has been sort of strategic leads and head teachers meeting together just to know that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. And then basically you guys going away and planning the next day's session based on what we've come up with together. So I think that's really useful. And you're not just giving us something off the shelf and saying this is the way to do it. You're listening to us, we're all having input to it and being able to shape the way that we want to go. And it would be lovely to be able to hear for everybody everyone in the cluster, so whatever it is, 60, 70 staff, to do the strategic thinking about it, but it needs to be a smaller group doing the strategic thinking and then spreading it out.
In episode 146, we were joined by Sue Marles, head teacher of Ragland Church in Wales Primary School, to discuss how Impact worked with the school to help instill a culture of professional learning.
Through working with you and developing knowledge of the science of learning, we created an opportunity for practitioners, providing them with the time to engage in quality discussion and professional learning, to identify why is learning hard and how do we know when children have progressed. When staff engaged in that initial training session with you through introducing the science of learning and theories of learning, it really provoked staff to discuss their thoughts and ask you questions, which led to lots of independent lines of inquiry undertaken. And I'm sure you'll agree that there were many members of staff who were challenging what you were sharing with us, but it was purposeful discussion that was leading them to understand and develop a greater understanding of how the brain works. And it was a forum whereby we could talk and have that quality discussion, which made us realize that deeper understanding needs to be had to be able to understand how we can take the learning forward with each child, because each child is different. How do they make those connections? What do we need to do on a daily basis to ensure that retrieval practice is enhancing the child's knowledge and skills?
So if you're thinking of working with Impact Wales, we hope listening to this episode has been helpful to see the kind of support we provide and the kind of impact it can have in the classroom.
All of our professional learning packages for schools and teachers are completely bespoke and individual to the context, and working in partnership with us couldn't be easier. All you need to do is to get in contact and we'll do the rest. Once we hear from you, we'll email you to arrange an initial meeting via video call, and we'll make sure we focus on what you want to achieve and how you feel we can help. We'll then set out a suggested outline of our partnership goals and the next steps to achieving them.
So get in touch and tell us how we can help. You can email us at inquiries@impact.wales or visit our website, impact.wales, for more details.